DoorDash coming to you guys today with another video, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about just give you guys some thoughts on what it's been like so far in my experiment that I've had. I wanted to just give you some reflection and feedback on my time. It's been brief, but on my time as a high AR, high completion rate, stat-minded, stat-driven dasher, and virtually accepting almost all orders with a few turndowns scattered about. So I want to give you my thoughts on that and what I've seen. And this is something I'm going to be doing between now and August 1st. I'm going to attempt to stay as a top-rated dasher. And I'm going to hopefully be a top dasher next month, all month long. And I'm going to see if I can maintain my AR above 70%, my acceptance rate above 95%. I don't really think the completion rate will be hard to maintain because I do that pretty much on a regular basis now. And see where things fall, see where the earnings are at. So how do I feel about it so far, thus far? Thus far, it's not been as, I would say, as terrible as I thought it was going to be, but it has definitely not been very good. And my main takeaway is that it hasn't improved my situation, but it hasn't made it substantially worse either. In other words, I'm making a little bit less than what I was making when I was being a value-driven dasher. In other words, I was letting the money define my stats instead of believing that the stats were going to bring money, right? Or that money was going to follow my stats. I let the stats follow the money. So, you know, in order for me to make $200, whatever my stats ended up at the end of the day, they were. And here's what I believe. I think that there isn't that much variation. Although what I think it is, what I think it ends up being, is you end up doing more orders, more deliveries within the time you're working. And the time I'm defining working is when I go out, I track my working time from the first delivery to the last delivery taken. If there's any significant break in between, I'll stop the clock and I'll start the next time I take a delivery. What I've found is that when I'm multi-apping, when I'm going after money that fits into my profit paradigm, then I find that I'm working less because there are less orders that are going to meet that. And I'm only activating my car and activating my time when I feel an order is valuable enough to do so. I have seen that there has been an uptick in miles driven. I will agree with that. But for myself, it hasn't necessarily cut too deep into the profits. But really, anything that cuts into cash flow, it's like, why would I go do this? But what I have found is that it does get a little bit frustrating as I'm going. And dealing with these lower orders, going to a worse part of town with more, again, what I have found is, you know, I'm getting a lot more, especially when I'm just accepting everything and not even looking at the map or analyzing the order. And I'm just saying, I'm just going to accept it and go. You know, I have found the value of those orders drops mainly because the customers are not very thoughtful. They're leaving me standing outside of apartment buildings that I got to get buzzed into, having to make that decision that some dashers do. Do I leave their food at the front of the apartment? And eventually, after maybe 5 minutes, they realize I'm there and they buzz me in. Whereas the guy that's tipping me $20 is watching his app, and yes, that can have its own drawbacks, and yes, that can result in low ratings if you're trying to multi-app, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or you're stopping off and using the bathroom in the middle of the order or whatever, or you're not taking care of their order. But what I found is those people, because they're thoughtful enough to tip you, they want the experience to be solid. They don't want their food waiting longer in your bag or in your car longer than it has to. And they're jointly interested, as you should be, in having a positive, successful experience that gets them their food in a timely fashion. And they're a partner in that. And it seems to me that fact that they're investing in that, it's the old investment idea that when somebody invests in a transaction, you know, it's like the idea, again, it comes back to where I used to be before. We would require, you know, for certain types of loans, certain types of transactions, we would want to have an investment from the customer. And it would be, and when someone would say, well, if they can't come up with it, why would you let a deal go? Well, it's because the connection, having something in it, makes them be more involved, to wanting to get more value out of that order. So, for instance, what I mean is if you have a customer that's tipping you $20, $10, they have tipped that for a reason, because they want to have a good experience. So they're invested in having that happen, giving you good instructions, being there at the drop-off to come across the street and help you get it to them fast and hot and well. You know, just being interactive and involved, that helps you be successful. It helps you to successfully complete the order with as little friction as possible. Whereas the guy that isn't tipping says, I don't care. In fact, they might even be invested in creating pitfalls, because this person is demonstrating, in a sense, that they're not financially invested in the order, at least on your end of the order, to the degree that they're saying, hey, I would rather something go wrong. I would rather you get frustrated and leave the food, and then I get the whole order for free. And that's not everybody that doesn't, that's low tipping or doesn't tip or isn't invested, but it's unfortunately a percentage of them, probably half of those people, or greater. I believe I've seen a tremendous, having been somebody that for 2 years has really dealt with what I call the upside, the people that are invested. To me, I can see now the downside, you know, and there is a difference. So, anyways, guys, that's my thoughts. I'll do another thought video, maybe in a couple of days as I go through. But I don't think so far that I'm seeing more money. So, I'm not sure what the comparisons are out there and other people are doing. And I'm looking at the data, right? I mean, I'm comparatively looking at the data. And I think that's where some of the disconnect is, that people will come out and they're getting caught up in what you would call like what they see. So they see a good payout. And I'm not saying I haven't seen decent payouts. Like I got an 11 for 5 miles. And I'm like, oh, and it says it's for my, ratings. So it's like, oh, I haven't seen orders like that. Well, probably because even when you were cherry picking, you weren't being patient enough. You were just eventually, and to me, that's also a issue if you're a cherry picker. If you're not patient enough, if you don't have a standard, and you end up waiting and waiting and waiting, and then taking what I call a mid-level order, and the value on that order is really low, and that can almost be as destructive, more destructive than taking every order, in my opinion. You can almost make less in that instance, because you've waited all this time, and then you've taken an order that isn't adequately paying you, and you never have a chance. You really kind of lock yourself in the middle, or you either land in the middle or not enough. But anyways, guys, that's my thoughts so far. I will, like I said, I'm going to continue to check in with you guys, let you know my thoughts on things as this experiment goes. I will be off, obviously, next week, as I had mentioned. I'll be off all of next week, so I'm going to try to post some of these videos up that I'm filming this week, and just maybe pop up 2 or 3 of them while I'm out, so it keeps the channel running. And then when I get back, I hopefully will be Top Dasher, and we can really have some fun. All right, guys, as always, stay safe, stay profitable, and I'll talk to you soon.